Hi, my name is Joanna Whitney. I am an intuitive artist, a student of natural law, and an energy healer. Um, we're studying the Kybalion by the three initiates. And we're on page 43. For the last several weeks, I've been reviewing Mark Passio's work regarding solipsism, which is basically Satanism, which basically means that there is no truth. Truth can't be known and it can't be communicated. If it was known, it couldn't be, or if there was truth, it couldn't be known. And if it could be known, it couldn't be communicated. That's basically what is being promulgated to the masses right now. So if you hear someone say, oh, it's all relative, or that's my truth is, or whatever, there is no truth, just my truth, that's solipsism. So we discussed that 3 weeks ago, which is really about mind control. And then a couple weeks ago, we looked at brain balance, the masculine and feminine sides of the brain, the law of gender in terms of the masculine and feminine sides of the brain. And then we looked at the different parts of the brain, the base of the brain, reptilian, the oldest brain, which would be considered the old left brain. Then the midbrain, which is where in between like the pineal gland and the pituitary, which is connected to God, that would be considered the sacred feminine midbrain. Also the old right brain, the mammalian brain. And then the neocortex, which is the new brain where we can use logic, reasoning, higher ordered thinking. And there's also a left and right brain of the neocortex. The reason we looked at that stuff for the last 3 weeks is because in order to understand the law of mentalism, we do need to understand how the brain works. And we have to examine whether or not we're under mind control, whether or not we're brain balanced. And I'll speak for myself as an artist. When I first really took a look at this, I found that I was polarized into the right brain, meaning that as an artist, I was completely intuitive. I didn't really use my logical brain at all. And I couldn't stand up for myself. That's a symptom of being polarized into the right brain. And the dark occult Luciferians ruling us want us to be polarized into the right brain or polarized into the left brain. You can see that in the parties. The left brain is Republican and the right brain is Democrat nowadays. And the two want to kill each other. And that's how we're very controllable when we're polarized into one side or the other, pointing the finger at the other side, saying that they should be obliterated off the planet. But the thing about that is when you're polarized into one side of the brain or the other, then you're very easy to control. The dark Luciferian, reptilian, I wanted to say people, but I don't really consider them people, human, because they don't have a connection to their heart and they don't have empathy or compassion. If you're polarized into one side or the other side, then the dark rulers can manipulate you easily because you just react in a polarized way. So we looked at that because in trying to examine this book, it's not going to be possible to understand this book unless you understand yourself better. You can't just use the mind control that you may be under as a result of living in this society to understand mentalism. To understand mentalism, you have to be using your neocortex and be able to utilize the trivium. And the thing about it is when you're in the reptilian fight or flight mode all the time because you're so busy that you can't think, you can't pause, you can't meditate, or you're so dreamy in your receptivity, then the neocortex is out of balance and it doesn't function properly. And then add to that also the chemtrail situation where they've gotten it so that basically aluminum is disrupting memory function in the brain that's being sprayed on us every day. So we're really up against quite a bit. I found colloidal gold really helps me with that. I haven't had too many problems with thinking since I've been taking colloidal gold. So that's my recommendation. But anyway, I'm just going to start reading here on page 43 where I left off. And I'm just going to wing it. And I do have some notes that I took a while back. Let's see if I get to that. It says the Hermetic principle of mentalism, while explaining the true nature of the universe upon the principle that all is mental, does not change the scientific conceptions of the universe, life, or evolution. In fact, science merely corroborates the Hermetic teachings. The latter merely teaches that the nature of the universe is mental, while modern science has taught that it is material, or of late that it is energy at the last analysis. The Hermetic teachings have no fault to find with Herbert Spencer's basic principle, which postulates the existence of an infinite and eternal energy from which all things proceed. So basically, Herbert Spencer was an atheist of that time, but he still did believe in a force. And this is the big argument, science's big argument is that there is no God. Okay. And so if there is no God, then we have to have man's law. And so in science, they're just constantly dissecting matter. But the three initiates are saying that they have nothing to argue with Herbert Spencer because he still believes in an infinite and eternal energy. Now we're at a point now where it's no longer even atheism, it's nihilism. So, they're trying to move us into transhumanism where there would be no law except man's law. And that's what they want. They want us to believe that. That's why they're doing the solipsism thing, because they want us to believe that, everything's relative and random and chaos. And so we have to impose our own laws, which is total horse manure. It's absolute crap. Because, what they do is they impose their laws. And then if you know somebody at the top, then they don't have to follow the law. So in their laws, there is authority, and us down here, we're the peons and we have no authority, and they all have the authority. That's why the cops all have guns and we can't have guns, even though the Second Amendment protects our inherent inalienable right to self-defense. But like where I live, they just have statute upon statute that violates the Constitution and violates our inalienable rights. And we would have to have, piles of money to prove that in the Supreme Court. And instead, we just cower under tyranny. That's what they're doing. Okay, they're creating a tyranny. But right now, the three initiates are trying to show that we're okay. Like, we agree with atheism. And at that time, atheism wasn't as extreme as it is now, because the atheists just didn't believe in religion, but they believed in a force of nature. Okay. So, and that's what Herbert Spencer's philosophy was about. And you can look him up if you want. In fact, the Hermetics recognize in Spencer's philosophy the highest outside statement of the workings of the natural laws that have ever been promulgated, and they believe Spencer to have been a reincarnation of an ancient philosopher who dwelt in ancient Egypt thousands of years ago, and who later incarnated as Heraclitus, the Grecian philosopher who lived BC 500. And they regard his statement of the infinite and eternal energy as directly in line of the Hermetic teachings, always with addition of their own doctrine that his energy is the energy of the mind of the all. With the master key of the Hermetic philosophy, the student of Spencer will be able to unlock many doors of the inner philosophical conceptions of the great English philosopher, whose work shows the results of the preparation of his previous incarnations. His teachings regarding evolution and rhythm are in almost perfect agreement with the Hermetic teachings regarding the principle of rhythm. So, while I was reading that, I was just thinking, what this book provides is a way for people who don't like religion to practice spiritual principles. I personally am one of those people. I'm not into having a human mediator tell me how to live. I can perceive the principles myself and apply them myself to know how to do that. And so I can use principles like this. So it's always an argument between religion and science. And so that it's usually like the religionists against the atheists. But there's another group of people who are just spiritualists, spiritual people who believe in natural law, using natural law. And it's really no one's business what deity we do or do not worship, as is, again, protected in our Constitution, our inalienable right to worship or not. So the student of Hermetics the student of Hermetics need not lay aside any of his cherished scientific views regarding the universe. All he is asked to do is grasp the underlying principle of the all is mind, the universe is mental, held in the mind of the all. He will find that the other 6 of the 7 principles will fit into his scientific knowledge and will serve to bring out obscure points and to throw light in dark corners. This is not to be wondered at when we realize the influence of the Hermetic thought of the early philosophers of Greece upon those foundations of thought the theories of modern science largely rest. Okay, so this is 1908, modern science. Modern science has changed because of big pharma, because in 1924, L.G. Farben merged with Bayer and became the American Medical Association, funded by the Rockefellers, who are Satanists, who want to promulgate germ theory, which basically means nature's going to kill us and we have to use pharmaceuticals that are made from the blood of the earth, oil, petroleum, to cure us of our ills. But really what it does is it kills us, because the body can heal itself under terrain theory. And I'll put a link in the description about terrain theory, so you can watch that movie if you want. Okay, let's see if I lost my place. So again, it's 1908. So this is before all the stupid big pharma stuff started happening. The acceptance of the first Hermetic principle, mentalism, is the only great point of difference between modern science and Hermetic students, and science is gradually moving toward the Hermetic position in its groping in the dark for a way out of the labyrinth into which it has wandered in search for reality. Well, that was until Big Pharma came in and interrupted it, but it's starting to find its way now because we have energy healers now. And that's all based on Chinese medicine, which is thousands of years old and is all about the causal plane. And that matter is just the effect of the causal plane, which is not the third dimension. The purpose of this lesson is to impress upon the minds of our students the fact that, to all intents and purposes, the universe and its laws and its phenomena are just as real, so far as man is concerned, as they would be under the hypothesis of materialism or energism. Under any hypothesis, the universe in its outer aspect is changing, ever-flowing, and transitory, and therefore devoid of substantiality and reality. But note the other pole of the truth. Under the same hypothesis, we are compelled to act and live as if the fleeting things were real and substantial. With this difference always between the various hypotheses, so that's the law of polarity, that under the old views, mental power was ignored as a natural force, while under mentalism, it becomes the greatest natural force. And this one difference revolutionizes life to those who understand the principle and its resulting laws and practice. So in other words, like we've been in a war, okay, for millennia against a group of dark occult Luciferians who may have created us, who want to make us into transhuman slaves. And so they try to convince us that there is no natural law. But there is natural law, and you can find it through the principle of mentalism. And instead of staring at matter and dissecting matter and trying to figure everything else out through matter, if you use your mind through meditation, visualization, raising your frequency, concentration, then you can make changes yourself similarly to the all. And if you add in prayer, you can have a lot more power and rise above the lower laws into the higher laws. But that's basically the big fight, and that's what they're talking about here. I'm not sure that the three initiates really understood the kind of war we're in right now, because at that time the dark occult were hidden in secret societies, and now they're out and about. You can see them. They're the black nobility of Europe, basically. The royals, the royal families, the bloodlines, the 13 bloodline families. Fritz Springmeier writes about them. That's who they are. So they're out. They've been outed, so to speak. But back then, they were not outed. In fact, they were considered, like John D. Rockefeller was considered a philanthropist at that time. And that's why he created the interfaith building in New York City on Riverside Drive for all the religionists to have their offices, so that they could have a rent-controlled building. But it was really so that the Rockefellers could control their boards. The Rockefellers sit on every board of every religionist movement in that building, and they control the boards to hide natural law from the masses. Yeah, that's what's really going on. Oh, well. So finally, students all grasp the advantage of mentalism and learn to know, use, and apply the laws resulting therefrom, but do not yield to the temptation which, as the Kybalion states, overcomes the half-wise, and which causes them to be hypnotized by the apparent unreality of things. The consequence being that they wander about like dream people, dwelling in a world of dreams, ignoring the practical work and life of man. The end being that they are broken against the rocks and torn asunder by the elements by reason of their folly. Because we are all made of matter. We are all in the mind of the all. So we do have to operate here on Earth. I mean, you've heard that term. My head is in the clouds, but my feet are firmly planted on Earth. That's basically a visual of my head is up in the first principle, mentalism, and my feet are firmly planted in the other 6 principles here on Earth. Rather follow the example of the wise which the same authority states. Use law against laws, the higher against the lower, and by the art of alchemy transmute that which is undesirable into that which is worthy, and thus triumph. Following the authority, let us avoid the half-wisdom, which is folly, which ignores the truth that, quote, mastery consists not in abnormal dreams, visions, and fantastic imaginings, or living, but in using the higher forces against the lower, escaping the pains of the lower planes by vibrating on the higher. Remember always, student, that transmutation, not presumptuous denial, is the weapon of the master. So basically, the work is to keep your mind focused on neutrality. No, don't ignore what's going on, but don't dwell in negativity about it. Try to remain neutral about it and try to be grateful for what you have and give of yourself to others and go the extra mile. And then you will be in transmutation rather than presumptuous denial. The above quotations are from the Kybalion and are worthy of being committed to memory by the student. That's what I just quoted. I just quoted the two. Use law against laws, the higher against the lower, and by the act of alchemy transmute that which is undesirable into that which is worthy, and thus triumph. That's one. And the other, transmutation, not presumptuous denial, is the weapon of the master. We do not live in a world of dreams, but in a universe which, while relative, is real so far as our lives and actions are concerned. Our business in the universe is not to deny its existence, but to live, all caps, using the laws to rise from lower to higher, living on, doing the best that we can under the circumstances arising each day, and living, so far as possible, to our biggest ideas and ideals. The true meaning of life is not known to men on this plane, if indeed to any, but the highest authorities and our own intuitions teach us that we will make no mistake in living up to the best that is in us, as so far as is possible, and realizing the universal tendency in the same direction in spite of apparent evidence to the contrary. So that means if you see, like, you see the chaos out there, right? Insane chaos and the craziness in the elections and all that. And you see people like driving like maniacs on the road, and you see like crazy things going on in the news and stuff like that. You can turn the news off and take the back roads, or do it in just mentally, turn off the news and take the back roads mentally, and live in this simple way. So basically trying to see that infinite energy and force and or God in everything, behind everything, the beauty, see the beauty in everything, and then act as if it is there and declare it to be so, and it will be so. Don't fall into the doom and gloom predictions that go on. I've literally never seen anything that is predicted actually happen in this crazy fake news media thing that's going on. I've never seen any of these things happen. I mean, things are slowly, incrementally happening. Lettuce is $4 a head here where I live. And I thought for sure it was going to go down, but it has not gone down. So, it's time to build a greenhouse and start growing my own lettuce. That's all. I'm just saying, so that's incrementally, they are, you know, taking the force out of the dollar. But we have plenty of time, and God will always be there to help us if I'm aligned with him. Like, I can pray to God, right, and get help. But if I am living according to natural law, treating others as I would like to be treated, I will get the miracles. That's basically my experience with this. but the highest authorities and our own intuitions teach us that we will make no mistake in living up to the best that is in us so far as is possible, and realizing the universe's tendency in the same direction in spite of apparent evidence to the contrary. Yeah, so there's apparent evidence to the contrary. Like the apparent evidence to the contrary is I should, like, you know, buy property and go live off the grid right now, or huddle in my house, or go buy a bunch of, you know, canned goods or whatever. I'm not living like that. Live according to your intuition. Don't buy into what you see in front of you unless it's in nature. And even then, you know, I mean, I have been in many situations like storms and stuff like that where I've just prayed to God and have immediately found a cave to go into. There's always an exit from the crazy when you pray. That's been what I've found. But I'm not a religionist. I just adhere to natural law and try to be helpful. And I don't have to go to, you know, a service somewhere and listen to some what do you call it? Mediator. I'm not into that stuff. But you know, you can be. It's to each their own. Okay. We are all on the path, and the road leads upward ever, with the frequent resting places. Read the message of the Kybalion and follow the example of the wise. Avoiding the mistake of the half-wise who perish by reason of their folly. So this is the end of chapter 6. So next week I will start chapter 7, and I'm not going to go into my notes because I took them a long time ago. So next time.